Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, should Uganda continue exporting labor, considering the abuses being documented? Two reports tabled recently in Parliament by the Foreign Affairs and the Equal Opportunities Committees pointed yet again at the danger Ugandans seeking employment abroad constantly face. The two committees investigated reports about hundreds of Ugandan girls stuck in modern slavery in Malaysia, working as sex slaves and drug traffickers after being abandoned by those who took them there. The reports of the committees also showed how others are being held illegally in prisons where they are forced to carry out hard labor and involved in other degrading activities. The Malaysian experience is just one incident, since there have been reports about mistreatment in the United Arab Emirates and Iraq, among other countries. The government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, sanctioned the export of labour as one of the steps to grant Ugandans employment opportunities abroad. The ministry established a department to register companies that export labor, but it appears the ministry has not been keen on monitoring the activities of these companies, which are now being accused of engaging in human trafficking. It's not even clear if government knows exactly the numbers of Ugandans taken and where exactly they end up. Uganda put in place a law against human trafficking, as well as a police department which handles cases of human trafficking and human sacrifice. But the law and the police unit that is supposed to work with Interpol as the international police seem to be silent. Faced with similar challenges, the government of Kenya recently banned the export of non-skilled laborers, especially house helps, also known as maids, until further notice. Now Ugandan women are bitter about the latest development and are making several demands to government. So tonight we look at the challenges emerging in connection with exporting labor to try and understand if it's viable to continue pursuing this program, considering the suffering many Ugandans are now facing. Our guests tonight, Hon Suleiman Madada, State Minister for the Elderly and Disability in the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. You're most welcome, Hon Madada.
You just have to add that also holding the portfolio of Labour and Industrial Relations.
Labour and Industrial Relations?
Yes, I also hold that portfolio. Good evening, listeners. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be with you.
Interesting. I need to take time to study this title. We're also joined by Ms. Rita Aciro, Executive Director of the Uganda Women's Network. You're most welcome, Madam Aciro.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
Honorable Minister, you started off with a good plan to export labor. What went wrong?
Yeah. I want to begin by saying that what happened in Malaysia is unfortunate and should be condemned in the strongest terms that any person can do. But also to give information to Ugandans that those girls that were exploited there were taken by individuals and unlicensed companies that are not registered. They are not part of the companies that we know that are supposed to register people to export people outside Uganda. First of all, I want to let Ugandans know that in 2005, using a statutory instrument 62, which is about employment and recruitment of migrant Ugandan workers abroad, government came out with guidelines on how to export labor. Of course, it came out because already there was existence of some labor being taken outside unregulated. So these regulations spell out exactly what a company that is supposed to export workers outside Uganda is required to do before being given permission to do this. And I want to let you know that we have now only 24 licensed companies in this country that are supposed to export labor. In fact, in your opening remarks, you did say, does Uganda still need to export labor? I could say yes, because apparently remittances into the economy amounting by 2007 only, there were $1,392 million into the economy of Uganda. And only this year by June, we had about 7 billion shillings in terms of remittances from external labor.
7 billion shillings?
Yes.
That would look like a decline. You said 1.3 billion.
Now that was only that year by June.
All right, let's continue.
And I'm saying that once this one is well regulated, it would add a lot of value to the economy of this country. One, we need to realize that we still face the employment problem in this country. And we cannot deny Ugandans who have the ability to go out and work and bring money to us. You'll note that the whole of public service, the former public service, has about 300,000 people that are supposed to be working. And we also note that our private sector has not grown to the extent of being able to absorb all the people that we have on the market. So it will be unfortunate if we took a decision to stop people going outside this country. All we need to do as a government is to ensure that whoever goes outside the government, goes outside this country, is catered for, is given the rights that is supposed to be as a worker, and also stamp out those illegal individuals and companies that are taking people without permission. And you'll note that criminals are everywhere. When you look at the history of this country, we've gone through a number of challenges, and when you externalize labor, you cannot really rule out those criminals, the individuals. We need to work together with our colleagues in the civil society, government, and all Ugandans to stamp out those people who are exporting people illegally. You'll note that our employment sector has been growing at a negative level in the wage, in the employment, in the government service. It is at around negative 0.6. So when you look at the level of new workers coming in the field, the employment force, you will not have all the people in this country. All we need to do is clean out those people that are really taking our people outside. Otherwise, they are making a lot of support, one, economically, but also solving the very big challenging problem of unemployment. Unemployment is a big challenge globally. It is not only in Uganda. You note that many of these existing strikes and demonstrations world over. I was recently in Geneva, and we were discussing the International Labour Organization report, and we realized that many of these challenges that we have today globally, even in Spain, Europe, Middle East, elsewhere, is an issue of unemployment. So for us to deal with unemployment in this country, one way to answer this issue is through externalization of labor. It is within our national policy on employment, and in fact we have said we need to increase decent employment opportunities and increase productivity for socio-economic transformation. So one way to do it is externalization of labor. I'm not saying we should allow people to be exploited out there. This is what we should stop.
We'll get deeper into that and how it can be helped. Rita, give us your own synopsis of this. What exactly happens when these girls go out there?
Thank you, Edmond. And I think I agree with the Honorable Minister that we cannot stop exportation of labor, rather. But my issue is, as Ugandans, what type of labor do we export? There has to be, we need to classify the type of labor that we are proud of exporting. And when you talk about the type of labor that we are exporting and the unfortunate situation that our sisters find themselves in, it's not labor that we are proud of. So, Honorable Minister, maybe the question we should ask ourselves is, what is the problem? Why is it that we're exporting this type of labor? And I know the Constitution of Uganda says the government protects its people. And property. Yes. So are we protecting our people when they go for this type of labor? When they are out there, are they protected? What type of labor do we, export? I know government talks about how much returns we get in terms of money. Yeah, are we only looking at the money, or actually the rights of our people as well? Because as Ugandans, are we proud out there to see our citizens do the type of work that they do, despite the fact that we are proud of the amount of money they bring in? For me, that is a question that we need to ask ourselves. Is it the cost? Is it the funds vis-a-vis the human rights of the people and the protection of the name of the nation of Uganda? So I think, Edmond, the question is, what type of labor do we export? Are we proud of this type of labor? Are we protecting the rights of our people who are out there? And in another scenario, when we look internally, these people who go for the type of labor that they go to offer out there, is it that labor that they have failed to offer in this country? Recently, Kenya came up with a policy to say that if you don't earn more than 5,000 Kenya shillings, you will not work in Kenya. If you are not above the age of 35, you cannot work in Kenya. Therefore, automatically cutting a certain type of people from entering into Kenya. And I guess that is done in the name of protecting the citizens of Kenya. So what is our government doing in the protection of our citizens, and particularly the women and girls?
Yeah, of course, that's a very interesting question. But you said, what type of labor should we be exporting? We need to go deeper.
Let's first of all maybe look at Rita. Maybe let's look at some of the synopses that you've heard about. Girls are taken out. The minister said some companies that take these people out unlicensed. He says, let's look at those scenarios. They get the girls, they tell them you're going to be bartenders or whatever. When they get there, they're sold into prostitution rings.
Yeah,
yes,
so
what have you heard about
actually, what the minister didn't tell you, between 2009 and 2010, government of Uganda through parliament passed 3 very important laws. One, the Domestic Violence Act, the Trafficking in Persons Act, and the
child sacrifice,
the FGM, and and all these laws are meant to protect women and girls particularly, but also men and boys. Now, we have these laws in place. What is our problem? Is the implementation, is the monitoring, is giving the capacity to the institutions that are responsible. I heard you mention the police and Interpol. Do they have the capacity? Up to today, this is 2012, we have not heard of anyone who has been, or institution, even the companies the minister is mentioning, that have been prosecuted because of exploitation.
Rita, let's get some hard facts from you. What have you had? What happens to these girls? What is the problem? Let's get to that.
Edmond, we've all seen this in the media. It's very,
give us a synopsis so we have something to discuss.
Yeah, the girls tell, chilling stories. Some of them are taken there. They're in sex slavery.
They're taken under the guise of getting,
getting employment. Some of them go, there are security companies recruiting them. Some of them tell them you're going to work in hotels. You end up working in somebody's house. They are gang raped, and raped in all sorts of ways. And, that dehumanizes the human being.
Honorable Minister, you say that there are only 24 licensed companies. How do we know which these companies?
Of course, I have that list of these companies.
Where can they find them?
Of course, let me take an opportunity to let Ugandans know. And that's where we have a problem, because many Ugandans are being exploited by companies that are not registered, and sometimes that we don't even know.
You give them
and
licenses?
After problems. Yeah, we give them licenses. And before you are given a license, there are conditions. One, you must indicate the terms and conditions of service of the contracting company outside. And these terms are also verified by the Department of Externalization of Labor. Once you divert from these terms, then you are likely to have your license cancelled. In fact, under these terms, you have to show the protection of the workers out there. You have to abide to the national laws and regulations. Under these terms, you are supposed to ensure that all the rights of these workers are supposed to be maintained. These terms give protection to this work. What is happening now is that, like the Chinese case, we have discovered that all these people that were taken there were not by any licensed company. Otherwise, we would now be dealing with it. We have ASCA Security Services Limited. This one is on plot 242 Entebbe Road. We have Nairo Public Relations Agency Limited, Sunsite Arcade, 2nd floor, Wilson Road. Drasaka Enterprises Limited, plot 87, Kira Road. We have the Gideon's Men Limited. This one is on Port Bay Road, Ruzira. We have Photo Limited, which is on Bukoto Street, Kamocha. Nomande Company Limited, which is on Bukoto Street, Kamocha. We have Detail Protection Services Limited, which is on Lubaga Road. We have Safer Employment Agents Limited, Plot 17, Kakungu Road in Tinda. We have SGA Manpower Limited, Makinon Road. We have JAG Security Group Limited. This one is on Magoba Lane. Saracen Uganda Limited is on Impala Avenue. Security Link Limited is on Sentema Road. Uganda Veteran Board Services. This one is on Senfuma Road. There is Comprehensive Logistics Limited Services. This is on Entebbe Road. International Security Systems. This one is on Chua Close. There is Pinnacle Security Limited, Lumumba. There is Hammer Property Services Management Limited. This one is on Kampala Road. Mixed Link Agents. This is on Katale Road, Seguku. There is Magritte Agencies Limited, Plaza Loom Street. There is Up to Corps Limited on Port Bell and Reliable Logistics Limited. PGI Limited on in Muyenga. Aliscoli International Limited, Ruaga Road, and Tarajo Employment Agencies on Rashidi Kamishi Road.
So those are the companies that people should deal with?
Yes, and we have now promised that we'll be publishing these companies monthly.
On a monthly basis?
Yes,
in the newspapers?
In the newspapers. It may not be newspapers, but any form of publishing them for people to know. And we want every Ugandan to be on the look. If you say company pretending come to the ministry and verify with externalization of labor, the problem that we are having, that because of the big challenge of unemployment, everybody can do whatever he can, so what she can to get a job. I was saying you are talking about the type of labor that we'll be exporting. You need to look at the general population problem. First of all, the unskilled labor is about 25% of our population. Then you get those that are skilled. Even here, we don't have enough jobs to employ them. That's the problem. Despite the introduction of universal primary education and universal secondary education, many people drop out of the system. So you have this population with you. Even if you had them in this country, they could not be fully engaged because the agriculture sector is limited in nature. Now, there are some jobs out there, domestic worker. Recently, for example, I went to Kuwait to verify a company that wanted to take people. What is happening now? Domestic workers.
Dishwashing in homes and cleanups.
We went there to verify this company and saw what was happening there. First of all, if they are paying some big sum of money, but they are well organized with a way of monitoring every worker that has been sent to a home. What is missing, which I want to agree with my sister here, is that we should intensify monitoring. Okay. Because you see, the Ministry of Labor is not alone in this sector. We have to work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to see what is happening in the foreign
through
states.
the embassies.
We have also to work with the Ministry of Internal Affairs because security has to vet these companies. Yes. So together, we need to work together and ensure that all these loopholes and gaps that are being faced are eliminated. But you cannot say for Uganda. In Kenya, it's a different case. You see, if you look at their level of education currently in terms of literacy.
Literacy is about 93%.
Yes, and you talk about Ugandans, we have a big challenge.
Much lower, 80.
In the East African region, the dropout rate of UPE, Uganda has the highest. In fact, when you look at a report by UNESCO 2010, they indicated that Uganda has a very high rate of primary dropout. So we have these big challenges that we have to address.
Okay.
Unemployment is one of them, but a symptom of many other challenges that we are facing.
Honorable Minister, do we have had a complaint about any of these licensed companies?
Yeah, we have had a complaint about Uganda Veterans Board.
Yes.
And one time, this license before I resumed this, I understand it had been suspended, but after warning and after looking at these issues, it was lifted. But of recent, Parliament raised the same, and I've instructed my officer to call in these people because before you cancel their licenses, it is provided that you have to listen to them. If you are to follow that regulation, if you just cancel without listening to them, then they will also charge. They will take you into courts of law. So we want to listen to them, but we also need to get these facts right. If there is anybody who has had a problem of exploitation, let these facts come to our desk. Because sometimes you want to act, but you hear through the media, and through the media is not enough evidence for you to act. You need these facts on ground. So we have to answer your question. We've had some companies being complained about recently.
Jack Security.
Yeah, Jack Security. I got a copy of a report that was being sent to IGP, Inspector General of Police. And I've also instructed my staff to begin following up this matter. They never wrote to us directly, but a case was taken police, and the only way I learned about it was the copy that I received from the Inspector General of, which was being given to the Inspector General of Police, but a copy to the ministry.
Rita, what's the problem with sending girls to work in organized places?
Edmond, you see, while the minister is trying to labor to explain to us, one of our biggest problems is unemployment in this country because of the low levels of education. Government cannot run away from its responsibility.
Well, 15 years from now, there'll be oil and there'll be jobs. Why don't we?
How are you going to employ people who are not educated? He's just said it, that they are not educated. I think what we need to do as government, Honorable Minister, is for us, yes, probably we are producing semi-literate people who cannot offer skilled labor. But what can we do with this populace? Is the solution sending them to the type of environment that they go to?
No, that is an interim measure.
Oh, okay.
I want to give you rest assured that one of the measures we are doing is we have now produced a paper called Skilling Uganda. We want to transform education from merely formality of classes to real skills that are required for our economy.
Incidentally, we have more universities and technical schools.
And if you
it should be the other way around. The triangles being
actually, you might find that the majority of these people who are being exported for this type of labor are actually skilled. Some of them are teachers. Some of them have gone through higher and tertiary institutions. Not all of them are illiterate people, and this is really because they are not employed. Back home, Honorable Minister, while girls and even probably boys are being abused out there, internally we have companies, we have groups of employers in this country that do not respect the rights of workers.
Right,
and this goes back to the issue of employment, but also exploitation of workers.
Maybe we'll talk about those in-house later at some stage. Today we'll probably stick to the ones who go abroad. Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, should Uganda continue exporting labor, considering the abuses being documented? We're going for a break. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
So unbelievable na yatenga vya dala tekibadde ize yadde nakamo bendera waggulu bulaka tuli beautiful yero wakasana kafenga kathufu ready brotherhood eyatero wetugatta
Tuchakale with Airtel today and celebrate 50 years of independence. Get up to 100% bonus to call across all networks. That's not all. Stand a chance to win a motorbike daily and a car every week. Simply top up every day. Get up to 100% bonus. Dial star 162 hash. Press yes or okay. Start the 50 years independence celebration of Uganda today with Tuchakale from Airtel.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back. On Spectrum tonight, should Uganda continue exporting labor considering the abuses being documented? Our guest tonight, Hon Suleiman Madada, State Minister of the Elderly and Disability in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Industrial Relations will understand that at some stage. Ms. Rita Aciro, Executive Director of the Uganda Women's Network. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Rita, what's your prescription? We have a big unemployment problem. Oil is taking its time in coming. What do we do in the interim?
Edmond, I like the excitement about the oil and everything. I hope it will be able to absorb all of us. But I think, as the minister said,
it doesn't create too many jobs.
It doesn't create, and I hope what the minister said is what we can go by, that there's a paper that has been developed called Skilling Uganda.
Yes.
And I hope that is going to start sooner than later, that we are able to start skilling our unskilled populace. Edmond, you've asked me, what is the solution for Uganda? Uganda is the Pearl of Africa. It has one of the best climates that you can talk of. Agriculture is our backbone that everybody has talked about, but when you drive to the countryside, you don't see that. And agriculture has been taken as something for the illiterate people. The educated, a few are now getting in there, but very, very few. And we do not have the equipment, the technology, the know-how for even our people to take up. And that's where the majority of these people actually lie. We would be producing food for export just across the neighbor, Sudan, Rwanda, Congo, all over this. All these countries depend on us for food. For me, one of the first steps is to strengthen that area, which probably does not need a lot of skill. It needs skill, but not that much skill that even our local people can absorb. The other one is really to go back to what the minister said, to try and address the symptoms of this whole problem, the issue of education, the quality of education, and whether the education is actually meeting our market in Uganda. And then also look at the industrialization of this country. Do we have industries that can actually absorb the number of people we are producing in terms of the skilled labor? Looking at the expansion, the districts we are creating, Honorable Minister, these districts are there in the wilderness. Can we take some of these facilities to ensure that people are employed in those districts? I think Uganda can actually absorb all its market, employment market, but it's because we do not have the capacity to absorb, and I think we need to generate the absorption internally before we start exporting these people.
I think government of Uganda has all the plans to expand employment opportunities for this country, and one of them is to put a conducive environment for investments, attracting both internal and external investments. Why? Of course, you know, the private sector is now the big employer, and all you need to do is put in place conditions that will attract people to invest. The other area government is trying to address is value addition, because agriculture alone, without processing and adding value, we cannot really get people employed there. You note that the type of agriculture is on the peasant level. That cannot employ many people, because that can also be an unemployment. You see, somebody claims to be employed, but meanwhile is disguised unemployed. So what the government is doing is to organize agriculture, one, but also add value. You have noted that in many recent budget speeches, we are talking about those who are adding value to be given incentives. You've heard about the banana presidential initiative to ensure that we add value to our banana. All of this is geared towards creating more opportunities for people to be employed. Once we address those big challenges, and you also note that we have some key prerequisite to these areas, and one of them is electricity. You cannot talk about industries, you cannot talk about rural transformation without electricity. You note that in our budget, President has been singing about investing in electricity. And once we address this, then the issue of rural-urban migration and people being exploited, if their conditions they are being addressed, then we are answering these problems. You note that originally we had very few megawatts to distribute in terms of power, but now we are expanding, and that way we are addressing this time this project. You also need to note that by opening the economy, even the civil society being given liberty, people have not read to know that before 1986 there are hardly 200 NGOs in this country.
Now there are many.
There are about 6,063 from by 2006, and all these are employing so many people. These are all situations that government is putting in place. But we have also another big challenge, that is the rapid population growth rate. And
the president promotes it.
No.
He does.
Of course, the way I think people have misunderstood the president on this matter is promoting it in a way that you have a population that should be planned for. You don't need to limit
maybe you should
population growth.
You should preach to him and convert him.
Yeah, but you see, if you know that Uganda population growth rate is one of the fastest in the world,
3.2%,
and that becomes a big challenge. And you see, as the population increases, it is not matching what the economy is supposed to cater for. So we have to look at all these problems together. It's a comprehensive solution that we need, and that is what is in the National Development Plan. National Development Plan, which is not very popular to many Ugandans, and I think we need to ask the National Planning Authority to publish this National Development Plan for Ugandans to understand and support it. We are looking at how we can generate more jobs. We organize our land, because there is a problem of also land segmentation. You see people getting land in pieces, and now you have a problem of land eviction.
Well, how do you do it? I mean, there are countries that have developed by Japan grew because it allowed small people to have plots of land. Indonesia.
Yeah, but
and you're probably advocating large farms, which don't help anyone.
Yeah, no, but the problem here is that whereas the policy there would work well, here we had different land tenure systems that were imposed on us by the colonial masters. You know, we have Maryland here in Buganda and Bunyolo. This is an historical problem which you cannot easily address. There are Bibanja holders, and then within even Bibanja holders, there are those who think they are legal Bibanja holders when they are illegal Bibanja holders. We need to really address this problem comprehensively. So, the land user policy, it should be importantly considered. I think, apart from talking about the land policy, but the land user policy. If you have good pieces of land, can you allow those that don't have land to use it? When you have the land, how do you use it? I think we need to look at this even further. Otherwise, the issue of unemployment is a big problem. You cannot tie Ugandans here unless you have an option for them, unless you have an alternative, which we must look for together.
Rita, what are some of the demands that you have on government? What should they look at this hard rock?
True, Honorable. We cannot tie Ugandans, and I don't think anywhere a citizen can be tied. I think the demand for us is, can we set standards? Mm-hmm. Let's set those standards. When we're exporting labor, what kind of labor are we exporting? These people who we're exporting, do they know their rights and responsibilities? Can we monitor wherever they are? Are they, those are the standards that Uganda needs to set.
That's where we agree.
Yeah?
We agree.
So we need to set the standards, and so that they also meet the international standards that Uganda has assented to in different international conventions. We've talked about plans, Honorable Minister. We've been planning. I think Uganda is celebrating 50 years this October, and
the number of challenges challenges.
And every government that comes, there is a plan. I think we have to move from the plans to implementation. Even the little that we have, can we implement it to the latter? I said it earlier on. You have institutions that are supposed to track all these people coming in and going out of Uganda. Are they well facilitated? Do we actually know what they are doing? I know most of our companies and government institutions are still running their business manually. Files are piled from, the bottom of the floor up to the rooftop. Can we start having systems that can easily be tracked? Because you go into an office and you want to track somebody, for example, in Iraq, it might take you forever, and you don't even know where to get that information. I think there's need for us to facilitate these institutions, particularly the police and other institutions, to ensure that their work is, easily done, and the people who need their services are also getting them. You talked about investment of government. Well, yes, there is investment in this area, and you have talked about privatization, and the civil society like us, people are being employed. Government has the responsibility. These investors, one day, can easily pack their bags. Are we going to say because we liberalized Uganda and therefore your employment was in the hands of the people who were employing you? What is the plan? I think we need to, as in Uganda, we have a national development plan. What is our bigger goal? Are we leaving the Ugandans? And I guess all these abuses are coming up because we do not have control. We do not have control of our own people.
You see, once you enter the world of capitalism, there is no way you monopolize development. The private sector must come in. What is important here, which I agree with you, is to regulate the private sector. Otherwise, government alone has no capacity to employ people that will come out. And I want to let you know that apart from these flaws that we have, I want to the public know that we have minimum provisions for a contract in those regulations.
Yes.
And I want to mention some of these. One, there must be guaranteed wages for regular working hours and overtime pay for services rendered beyond regular working hours. That must be a condition in a contract that you sign. Two, there must be free emergency medical and dental treatment facilities. That must be provided for in the contract. And that there must be a just cause for termination of the contract of the services of any worker. That is also provided for. Workers' compensation benefits must be ensured. In that contract, what is in the regulation is there. Repatriation of workers' remains and properties in any case of death to the point of hire, or if this is not possible under the circumstances, the proper dispatch upon pre-arrangement with the workers to the next of kin and the nearest embassy or consulate.
Right.
This is provided for. But as you said, she was talking about workers elsewhere not getting assistance. We have another problem. That's where we need to look at our economy and really work hard. These missions abroad are supposed to be fully equipped, but sometimes you get limitations on how to equip.
Let's talk about the missions. Where the countries where the girls are trapped, are those missions equipped to rescue them, evacuate them?
Of course, they are not fully equipped because of the financial limitations.
Well, but if you have an emergency, would you not move force to get the girls out?
Of course, that emergency is important, but I'm saying those challenges that exist. If a person went outside this country without the knowledge of the state, and this fellow may be exploited without even the knowledge of the mission is there.
Problem.
Of course, you need to alert the missions. One important point she has made is people knowing their rights. Because sometimes people
but some of them report to the embassy. What should the embassy do? They could say we don't have money.
Those embassies should be able to report to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here, and the government will take appropriate measures.
Is that what's happening? Are some girls being evacuated, flight tickets?
I can't concretely say yes or no, because I'm not there, but I've heard in the papers that some have reported, like when Equal Opportunities Committee raised the issues, they were saying some of these missions were not caring. I'm yet to verify this.
Is it something you take seriously? Would you take action to move to find out?
Yeah, every
what's happening?
Ugandan deserves the right. You know, it is a constitutional requirement. Article 40 says that every Ugandan must be ensured of a decent work. That every worker must be protected on his right. It is a constitutional requirement.
In practice, is it happening? Are officials doing that?
We are trying to our best, but I'm saying the perfection of this system requires a lot more.
Honorable, I was just wondering, besides putting down the regulations for these different companies that take our young women and probably the young men, do you as the ministry actually see what they do before these people leave? Do they orient them? Do they give them their terms and conditions when they're here? Do they take them through their rights and responsibilities so that by the time these people leave, they know that we have a backing back home, and these are the steps that we can take when we get into trouble?
Yeah, those steps are supposed to be there. Before you leave this country, you go through a
Do you have a
training.
database?
You have training? Yes, through my Standardization Labor Department. I've said each copy of a contract that we should have a contract of each member that is going out, and we should be following. Only that the limitation is for the ministry to be able to move out. I remember in 2009, my colleague then, Honorable Dr. Otara, went to United Arab Emirates to verify what was going on. I've just told you this year I was in Kuwait. We have never taken workers there, but because of the experience, I did say before this company is given this permission, we better visit and verify what they are doing.
Right.
If we can have this capacity, then we can be sure.
Let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, should Uganda continue exporting labor, considering the abuses being documented? On numbers 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. You call in, please tell us your name and where you're calling from. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name? Spectrum, hello? Hello? Yes, sir, your name? Your name is? Adrico. Please go on, but could you speak out louder?
My name is Aciro.
Please go on. Alright, we lost you. The line was not very, very clear as well. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Spectrum, hello? 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 Good evening, your name? Please switch off your radio. Your name, sir? All right, Spectrum, hello? Hello? Okay. Hello? You're live on Okay, let's get back to the studio. Honorable Minister.
First of all, I want to thank the callers and particularly the Chairman General of NUTU, Mr. Were. He made points that we are now doing a lot of PR, of course, and he says the ministry requires overhauling. Of course, that is the point made. I'm also aware of their petition to the president, where they are saying the Ministry of Labour and Employment should be separated from the Ministry of Gender and leave it alone. Of course, you also got confused as to Labour and Employment.
Industrial
relations. That is another sector which I also caretake, as I said. It's a big sector. I want to let... Of course, one of area that we have worked together is that we have even allowed these labor union centers. Now we have NUTU and COFTO that are working with us. We have what we call the tripartite arrangement: government, employers, and employees. What is happening is that when we put back the charter, that tripartite charter that we are now working out, where we can have time to listen to workers' representatives, to the employers and the government. That's one way to sort out these problems, and these efforts are being carried on. One of my, is it Chibu? He was talking about employment. What is employment? According to our national policy, employment is a state of gainful engagement in an economic activity. Once you have a gainful engagement in an economic activity, that is employment. If you are in an activity and it is not gainful, we don't refer to this as employment. So that's how we define employment. I agree totally with the last caller who talked about building capacity. And building capacity calls for a lot of time. One, you need to look at the education, that's one of the areas, but you also look at the financial basis for you to be able to go and monitor what is taking place there. But also the systems. People can beat the systems of going out, of getting passports and entering other countries. We need to look at those systems as well. So, together as Ugandans, we need everybody working in a decent place, and that is the principle of this government, as it is spelled for in the 1995 Constitution, Article 40, from Section 1 to 4. They are talking about decent employment. We are not merely caring about, it is not a question of just looking at employment, but we are talking about decent employment. But before you talk about decent employment, you should create the employment opportunities. So what we are facing now as a country is to come out with employment opportunities, then we can stop people to go for this indecent employment. But look alone, you are talking about externalization of labor. Many of you, including the human rights activists, are employing house girls, housekeepers at a very low pay, and when you come out here in the media, you are talking about the government. Why don't you question yourself? Why do you employ these people and underpay them, keep them within their houses, and you are saying we are human rights activists? My appeal is that the fight against human rights should begin with yourself before you talk about the state.
Rita.
I hope Rita is not having this.
No. Honorable Minister, I like how you go around your arguments. And rightly so, you defined what employment is. It should be gainful, and I had just noted under what conditions. What is gainful might not be under favorable conditions. And again, you went ahead to say, before we'll talk about the favorable conditions, we should create the jobs. We, meaning government, should create the jobs in Uganda so that we can set standards. So I'm wondering, do we set standards and then do we first set the standards and work towards it, or we first go whether they're not standards or not?
The age and chicken.
So which one comes first? So I think we are caught in between the hard place and the rock as Uganda. So, and that goes back to government. For me, while you challenge many of us out there, what type of conditions these people work in, again, who sets the standards? Government is in place to set a standard. If we want our house help to work within a certain condition, then let government say so, come up with a minimum wage. And like in the Western world, where you have social workers come home, assess conditions of work, do you have that capacity? And I think Owero made a very important point. What is the capacity within your ministry? Do you have the capacity to set that standard and monitor and ensure that actually we are complying to those standards? So I think as a country, well, you might not go on defense, Honorable Minister, as a country we have a big challenge. I know it's not only you. I'm one of those people who really believe that your ministry needs to be split. Your ministry is a very important ministry. It has the Ministry of Gender there. Gender is one of the biggest subjects in this country. It's lumped up. Labor, it's lumped up. Disabled children and everything that we're talking about is in that ministry. I think you need our support, Honorable Minister, to ensure that that ministry
is split into two.
It's not only split, but gets the requirements and the capacity that it needs, both technically and otherwise.
Just to give assurance to my sister and the listeners that we have a number of departments, including occupational health and safety department. That one is supposed to ensure that all workplaces and where people work are supposed to be decent. As we said, we have to build capacity for these institutions.
Thank you very much, dear guest. Hon Suleiman Madada, State Minister of the Elderly and Disability in the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Thank you for coming to Spectrum tonight, sir. Miss Rita Aciro, Executive Director of the Uganda Women's Network. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Kizito. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English. Do stay tuned. Radio 1.
You can pay, you can buy, pay your bill.